Kim Tata nZambi ya Mazulu, came from Mokiakuisa. Beto Abu family, Nuvuvamo, Awe Nusiemi, Kambotekeno. Very rarely do I do a back-to-back video in the same day, but a major sign is something that we need to be prepared of. And the Most High, I think, truly is behind this because there's a lot of coincidences behind this. It doesn't make sense. Something happened that didn't make sense to me because I've been in the sports world for a lot of years, even in the district where it happened, and something happened that didn't make sense. And I think it's kind of funny that when they announced the issue, it's coming on what I saw was a blood moon, harvest moon, and also the equinox. Now, of course, here we're calling it the fall. Bantu people, we know it's the spring. Things are backwards and upside down. And we know this is also falling on the heels of what happened at the UN. And, you know, what we saw with the president of Angola and the recognition and the knowledge, the mentioning of the 1619 once again. So we know we're getting closer to our deliverance. Okay, for those of us who know what's going on, you know, a lot of people are in the blind. I'm going to show you something that caught my attention because normally I don't watch the news, but for some reason I watched it today. And what was funny is they mentioned there was an issue with a high school football team and where something caused the whole team to be suspended, which coaching high school football year for over 11 years, seen a lot of things happen. This is obviously something. And I even coached in that school district where we had incidences similar to what they're talking about. And this never happened before. So I thought, wow, this is weird. Because it creates a problem for the football season and points and everything for the teams they have to play when this happens. And so a lot of times when something like this goes down, the investigation is in-house and the news is not a part of it until whatever happens is resolved and the charges or whatever takes place, or the player or players or somebody who's involved are already suspended. That's the problem. That's why I was a security officer. We dealt with a lot of things. The last thing you want is a major media event when you don't have all the facts. I've always known that. I know people in law enforcement for years. This doesn't even match up to what law enforcement is doing. I know I got federal agent cousin, you know, I got former police officers. I mean, I know a guy who was actually a coach and a police officer in the same district that I'm pretty sure he probably heard it. And he's probably scratching his head like, what? You know, this doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I digress. When they announced it, the thing that got my attention was, you know, there was the Mwanda. I could tell that whoever they were going to talk about would have a bird of prey mascot. Now, being that this is my Southern Colorado area, there's only a few teams that I know of that have a bird of prey mascot. And one of the big top ones, I was thinking, no, they wouldn't do that to them because they're always the powerhouse every year. And that would be a huge thing for them to do that. But I've known them to sweep them things under the rug too at this school, because I've heard stories from people that went there that they had swept things under the rug. And what was interesting was the team has the mascot of the Falcons. And I was like, why am I not surprised? I say I'm not surprised because those of us who know the truth about the United States and the deceptions that they want to keep putting out there, we know that the Knights Templars honor the sun god Horus, which happens to be the symbol of a falcon. And of course, those of us who are awoke to the truth, we know the Knights Templars control the United States, the world, and a whole lot of things. We know that they're the ones that took Bantu people into slavery because the history has been put on the walls in Africa. This even, when you look at what America was founded, the Knights Templars were at the center of it, okay? So now, what got my attention, of course, was the time, the date. Now, I'm not saying this incident didn't take place, but I mean, you're talking about 50-some people or 60-some people, which not everybody on a team is always in connection with one another. You got certain friends here, certain friends there, so not everybody's going to be doing the same thing. It's very rare where, I mean, maybe the top athletes, the top players or something, they might be involved with something, but the people who, a lot of the backups and everything, half the time they don't even talk to the starters. And that's why I was like, man, this is so weird. Unless they're good friends, they had a team or something that came up. It's just kind of weird. But anyway, I digress. I'm not going to question that part. It's just the fact that when you know the city that I grew up in has 2 obelisks downtown where they built this Olympic City Park. And those of us who know what the obelisk stands for, it's just, and I know the nature of how the city is run nowadays. We know that, those of us who, again, have our eyes open, the scales have been taken off, we know where we're at, okay? But this is the thing that caught my eye when I started kind of putting it together, is the ancient Egyptians, Phoenicians, and Persians, which we were all connected to this, Bantus. And ironically, they're going to say it's the autumn or the autumn equinox, which the name Atum is actually a demon, okay? We know, I know this because I looked up the demonology, and this is one of the names of the demons. It says the ancient Egyptians celebrated the new year with the autumn equinox, when the hours of the day and darkness reached the equilibrium. On this date, the first day of autumn, the location of the sun reaches one of the 4 corners of the zodiac cross. And I'm going to show you what the zodiac cross looks like. And for many people who are in Christianity, this is going to blow you away if you know when I show it to you. Because I'm going to show you that this is how you know they deceived us. And when we came in, that the Catholicism people were deceiving the Bantu people. They knew who we were, and everything is all part of the matrix, okay? So the zodiac cross looks like that. Okay, so they say the sun would hit one of the 4 corners of the zodiac cross. Now, of course, this is honoring the sun god, because the Egyptians and the Phoenicians and they all worship the same deity by a different name, okay? So when we go to it, we know, okay, so the sun god of course, Ra. But you see here, this is the Egyptian god. And if you look at his scepter in his hand, you'll see that this particular one was drawn with a zodiac type cross in mind. Okay. We know what the Ankh was actually meant to be the sun with the cross symbol. It was meant to be this, but they put the sun above the cross, is what it means. Okay. So now, when we look at the times that we're in and the things that are happening, and what the Tata nZambi and Pungu Talenda was doing, again, I give all honor to those in this work. I finally got a chance to watch the Agikuyu Seer talking to my brother Yakubi. I'm going to get to some other videos as well. And I was like, what he told him really hits home when he said that the false Messiah has been activated. And I was like, okay, so this now, when I see what happened, I watched that video, it's kind of weird. He said that with what happened with Afghanistan, that now we're coming upon this time and this happens, which I said is no such thing as a coincidence. Okay. And so now on this, it was a blood moon. I watched it. The dude said harvest moon, but it was almost orange or red color. Okay. When I then saw this incident that took place, and of course there were some other things that I saw that happened that were strange, because there was a controversial video on YouTube about Biden and the expectation that there's going to be an attempt to get his resignation for certain misconduct that he is a part of. And I know this is a civil war coming that's happening, because it's going to create a lot of controversy when some of this stuff comes out. Brother Keith actually tried to watch the video and it was pulled down. And what was interesting is about it was the fact that there's now evidence coming out about the so-called what you call it. Let me go to the thing. I think I saw this. They're talking about the controversy behind the so-called tribunal, or whatever you want to call it, to get the people who are in trouble. Now this right here, I just saw this and this grabbed my attention really quick. It said military aid for Israel removed from US funding bill. And you have to ask your question, why would that happen? Okay, when you see all the things that are starting to happen and the things about Israel right now, and we know the blood, we had the blood red, we had the sign of the red. I told people we had on their Yom Kippur, their so-called New Year, they had that Dead Sea pool turn red, and they're trying to act like it was, you know how they do, make up excuses. And we had the blood moon on the harvest. And see, this is coming up on what they call their Feast of Trumpets or whatever, which now we know that's backwards. But see, of course, Hebrew Israelites, they following what they've been taught through the thing, because they think there's a northern hemisphere. They don't understand all of the feasts. This is how the Ashkenazi Jews have deceived everybody. They're going along with the 1582 Gregorian calendar changes with the Babylonian calendar that they follow. And they adopted their feast days to the Northern Hemisphere calendar. which before 1582, that didn't exist. Okay. So that's why when you look at this fall equinox, you say, wait a minute, is it the fall equinox that really wasn't our, what we call our springtime? Or is it the fall equinox that they're saying for what we know now as the fall equinox? Okay, because this is the ancient days, there was no northern hemisphere. All right. They did have the sun, they did do the Babylonian calculations at that time to say that they thought the earth was round, but it was because when Nimrod died, his mother claimed that he rose up to the sun and that he was supposed to be worshipped as the sun, and he was merging with the sun to become the sun god. Okay, and that's when they began the true. Now I know even in the days of Noah, they still worship things. You know, they taught them that, they brought it back kind of, but they used Nimrod as the excuse. Okay. So now, as Tata nZambi has told us, and I just showed you the calendar, you know, people follow these zodiac signs. This is something, it's a no-no to Bantus. And you now see the cross that they affiliate with it. Okay, let's go to, this is one of the more popular Christian crosses. Okay. It's not a coincidence, people, that they designed it like this. Wow. Okay. So then you go back to Lamilia or Jeremiah 10. Many people know this very well. He said, "Hear ye the word of Akongo, Tata nZambi speaketh unto you, O house of Isaela, Isolele. Thus says the Mfumu, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of the heaven, for the heathen are dismayed by them." So the way the world is being deceived by Satan, that they don't understand, is how the creator defines who is the heathen and who are not. Even in Bantu culture, the historical record shows that our ancestors did not worship other gods for a certain period, even with King Dawidi, until King Solomon, when he did what he did. Now we had the incident with Sola, because the Most High didn't find favor with him because he disobeyed the Most High. He was supposed to kill everything that he was told to kill, and he didn't. Okay. And what happened was, the Bantus, and we know this, in Bantu culture, there was never truth that we didn't follow this one. Okay. Where, I mean, maybe later on when people started doing witchcraft, there might have been some incidences of that. But it says, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. And see, when early slavery happened and the Knights Templars and other people were doing something like this, Bantus were not participating until they were starting to be forced to. Okay. They deck it with silver and with gold, and they fasten it with nails and with hammers, and then move it about not. See, and this is why they always say, when you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat things you're not supposed to do. This is especially important for Bana Betu, because by us being cut off from our history, we are now doing things that we never did. Like it says, you worship gods of wood and stone that your forefathers never did, applies to the people who are beyond the river Ethiopia. And one thing I forgot to mention in the previous video that those people know, Okay, Occidental. It was called the Kingdom of Congo was called Ethiopia Occidental. Zephaniah 3:9, Zephaniah. Okay, so we see here the Most High. The things that many Bantu cultures and customs. This is why they hide the truth. We did not follow these things, and I'm gonna tell you why. We know that we were able. The trees we knew were alive because the Most High is the earth, and we could do things with the trees, and people don't, people. That's why they had the cuss when Isaiah said you can move a tree. Well, that's because if you had the Bantu, if you had the Mwanda Velela Semi, you could command a tree to get out of your way. So he made it very clear in this that they are upright as the palm, but speak not. So the children of Isolele had the ability, and of course, this is something that even Native Americans kind of talked about, but people think it was crazy, that they could hear the trees. Okay. It says, be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. So this is something Lamilia was showing at the time, that this was a Babylonian custom where they used to cut the trees down and decorate them silver and gold. And we know, for those of us that have studied the history, it comes from when Nimrod died. A tree is allegedly, now of course, Semiramis was behind it. She magically caused a tree to come up out of the ground and ordered people to decorate it in honor of him. Okay. So this is something that was a custom that became a part of many other cultures that worship him in different names. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Mfumu, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appertain. For as much as among all the wise men of the nations and all their kingdoms, there is none like unto thee. But they altogether brutish and foolish, the stock is a doctrine of vanities. So according to the Most High, and then it even goes to silver spread in the plates is brought from Tarshish and gold from Uphaz. Remember, I talked about this before when Solomon used to have the, okay, so let me see. See, you got silver is brought from Tarshish and gold from Uphaz, the work of the workmen, and on the hands of the founder, blue and purple in their clothing, they are all work of cunning moon tools, man. Okay. But Tata nZambi Mfumu is the true Mungu, or um, Yah. He is the living Yah Kongo, an everlasting king. At his wrath, the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. So this is going again into the future, the day and terrible day of Tata nZambi. So now, like I said, what got my attention is we know that there's always symbolism done through secret societies, signals they send out. And of course, they don't care what happens to the people that are under their control, because they don't know the truth about the world that they live in, that they're under a matrix. So technically, whatever they do, if it affects other people, oh well, because the brotherhood comes first. So now, as we have now speculated, and I mentioned this already, and it's kind of strange that things are already starting to come into play, is that we are now moving forward. And I actually watched a video, and it was done by, as a guy I used to watch, and I was even, I used to watch him before, and just to show you the Most High does use other people to help wake you up. It was a person who did a video. It's an end times production. Let's see. It's called It's called ETP clips, and he actually mentioned some scriptures. It's called They've Been Waiting for This Day. It's capital ETP and then clips. The funny thing about it is he mentions, and let me see if I can find the scriptures he's talking about. Let me get to them. These scriptures that he mentions, of course, they apply it to themselves as in Christianity, but it's really meant for the Bantu people. He's talking about that this is going to be, this is kind of how, they can tell you, they're warning you. He's talking about how this is a Halloween that you'll never forget. So obviously you could tell there's something in the works, because he says they've been waiting for this day, which means that they're going to really ramp up this time frame. I even noticed they brought back that stupid Chucky doll, and I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But see if trying to find the scripture that he used. So he's talking about, I was doing a video, he's talking about Baal. It's kind of funny that he was talking about him, I was mentioning this. So this is one of the scriptures that he talks about that really applies to Bantus, because he's saying this is something that's coming. Okay, Lamilia 19. And it's verse 5. And it says, well, I'm gonna read the whole thing. Okay, it says, thus says the Tata nZambi and Fumu, go and get a potter's earthen bottle and take of the ancients of the people and of the ancients of the priests, and go forth into the valley of the son of Hinnom, which is by the entry of the east gate, and proclaim their words that I shall tell thee. And this place we know, I think we saw it labeled. This is definitely an emblem. I think Reverend Robert Haley talked about it, and some other people, that there's a name that they spelled it wrong. They spelled it differently, but it's the same place. And he said, hear ye the word of the Mfumu, or king of Yahuda, the inhabitants of Yerusalem. Thus says the nZambi of hosts, the God of Isolde, Mfumu, behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and whatsoever heareth the ears shall tingle. Here you go. This is why your ears ring. And they try to tell you, oh, you got a disease. Because they have forsaken me and have estranged this place and have burned incense unto other gods. Okay, this is Bantu people again. We don't ever learn. Whom neither they know their fathers have known. And the kings of Yaoundé, and have filled this place with the blood of innocents. Of course, this is one of the things that we have a tendency, when we always worship in Baal. The Most High said, don't bring your children over to Baal. You see it happening in Hollywood. You're seeing it happen in the business world. You're seeing it happen in all of the earth. You're seeing it happen with our leaders. They secretly give people over to Baal. And they don't tell you, okay? It says here, they have built also the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire, for burnt offerings unto him. And see, this is something that Bantu people were actually doing in the Kingdom of Congo that made certain people feel like we were pagans. But what they didn't know is we were being disobedient to the Most High, and this is why they saw this, okay? And sadly, this is still happening today in very secret places with Bantu people, Bakongos. And I don't know why we never learn. Now, see, I know the Ish people, they're doing this. because the rabbi was bragging about it, what they did underneath the synagogues. And he said, we've told our enemies about it and they don't believe us because they claim, oh, we hate the white people. And I'm like, dude, you are Hittites mixed with Edomites. You're not much different than the white people. Come on. Stop trying to fool people. Your complexion is almost the same. Get out of here with that mess. Okay. The Most High knows he doesn't look like you. His people don't resemble that. Adam and Eve, you've even seen it in documentaries, don't even resemble that. So how in the world can you say, well, we won't get into that. But anyway, so he talks about that, okay, when they're saying that they're getting ready for this major sacrifice to Baal. So something's about to go down. We didn't end, I said, we didn't end the war in Afghanistan right before all of this just because they have to always create the narrative for the sheeple. Okay, then he starts going into, what is that?
Offer up their sons and daughters to Moloch, though I did not command them.
All right, Lamilia 32:35. This is something I forgot about these scriptures too, okay? And like I said, this is kind of strange that, like I said, this happened because this is what they're doing some rituals right now. And I pray that the Tata nZambi will send them Maliki to help, defeat them with this. But this is a ritual night. They're doing rituals right now because the people that do heathenistic stuff right now. Okay. Now it's the nighttime here in America. It's late night. You best believe, and I wouldn't be surprised if the president of Angola is joining them with his mask on, is that they're going to the places where they have everything hidden and locked away underground, wherever they keep their soccer, whatever they do. Okay, they're so-called masquerades. Okay, looks like because they're folks looser masquerades. They're getting ready to do their thing. So Tata nZambi, I pray that protection over us and our people as this wicked in the nations continue to go and get to hallelujah. So he goes to Lamilia 35, 32, 35. And he says, and they built the high places of Baal, which are in the valley of the Benon of Hinnon, to cause their sons and daughters to pass through the fire unto Moloch, which I commanded them not, neither came into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Yahweh to sin. Okay. This is what happened. If you see now, this is what happened before he sent us into Babylon after what happened with King Solomon. It says, and he says, now therefore, thus says Tata nZambi, the Most High of Isolde, concerning the city whereof you see, it shall be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon, which is Nebuchadnezzar, by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Hello. This is almost identical to how we were delivered into the hand of the Knights Templars when we went into slavery. Because we were doing some of this stuff, we were doing some wicked things. Our elders were allowing things that shouldn't have. We were having arguments with people who were saying you shouldn't be doing this, even before slavery. Okay. And it says right here, the Bakongo people, it says, by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence. And if you remember, in slavery, one of the things that started to happen when they would take us into slavery was they would burn the crops. They would burn the houses. They would destroy. People were hungry. They were starving at that time. The kingdom was starting to be dealing with hunger, pestilence. You had people who were getting sick with diseases like, at that time you had infestations of locusts and all kind of stuff. Okay, that was going on with the kingdoms in those days when the Most High was taking us. You know, you had the rats on the ships and all kind of stuff. Okay, so he's the same thing happened then, happened again. That's why Pastor Miller says scriptures can repeat over and over. But see, the Gentiles don't. They have been conditioned to think that the things that the Most High talked about only happens once or a few times, not continually, because the scriptures didn't end after Revelation. That is the lie. Many Christians believe the scriptures ended after Revelation. It cannot, because then you have to continue the story. Then what happened to all the people they made into disciples? Where are they? Where are all the people they turn into disciples? Do they not have a role in this? This is how, are there no more prophets at all? They assume that Yesaiah was the last prophet that the Most High ever sent. That's a lie. But then, of course, Islam would say, oh, yeah, Muhammad, he's the last prophet. Okay. The Most High is like, I don't think so. How do we know that? Because the Islam, they keep calling their people that followed after that prophets. Elijah Muhammad, you know, what they called him a prophet. So how can that be that they ended? See, that's one of the reasons why Christians don't accept what Islam says, because they say, oh no, Kuswakongo, Jesus Christ was the last prophet and the last messenger. Then what are you when you're a disciple? Do you not prophesy? Do you see the conditioning we've been put under? But then you have people who now call themselves prophets, even in Christianity, and half the stuff they say is wrong. Nearly all the stuff they say is wrong. They actually go off of things they already knew or already heard from somebody, and then they prophesy. We are familiar with that even in the Bantu Awakening. Okay. This, I'm telling you, Masa even talked about it. He prophesied. That's why you're seeing these signs popping up now, because it's going to happen for real. Everything, I mean, you see people already running for their life in Europe, not just from because of the pandemic, but because of bad weather. And you see people being evacuated from a volcano. Okay, you see the devastation of what took place with the flooding in Philadelphia, New York, from Ida, and all of the things, the tornadoes that hit. You saw 2 tornadoes hit in Italy. Okay, you see that they still got devastating fires going on in California that's destroyed hundreds of thousands of acres. Okay, you had the earthquake that now they had one that just shook Chile. You had one that hit the Dominican. You had another one that hit Mexico. There was a volcanic eruption in Mexico. You had the situation that's going on with the migrant situation. Okay, you had the incident where people are running for their lives in Afghanistan now. You see what's going on in China, massive flooding. Okay, there was a huge typhoon that hit those areas. Okay, there was an earthquake not too long ago that hit a couple of them that hit them. Okay, people, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that the climate change that they're trying to tell you is the Most High. There's too many. They keep pointing out, oh, it's the way the weather and how human beings have changed the planet. Look, man, they gave you the things, they did the things on purpose to make you pollute the planet and then blame it on you, when they know in reality it's to make the whole, it's to reverse, to cause people, us bad people, to curse ourselves, to hurt the earth. They know this. This is why we all the garbage on the ground in Africa is made to cause you to hurt the earth. They know this. So so he's showing you that this is a future prophecy, and you can tell. Behold, I will gather them out of all the countries whither I have driven them in mine anger and in fury and great wrath, and I will bring them again unto this place, and I will cause them to dwell safely. So now I can tell you right now, this is how you know where this place Hanan is because we're going back to there after the exile, and we're going to Embo. So this place has got to be there. Okay. I've already told you, and even not to say Trump was in the book of Daniel. Here's this. This man right here and Donald Trump are one and the same. The spirit. Technically, this spirit was connected to George Washington and those before we came. But it was actually more like, what was his name? What's funny was we came into captivity. This is how it's so weird. When the Bantu people came to America under the captivity, the King of England was King James of the Bible that you're reading now. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. I got it right. Because I'm going to show you when we came into captivity in the Americas. So here it is. King James the Sixth, and one was King of Scotland is James the Sixth from July. He was born from July 24, 1567. And King of England and Ireland is James the First for the union of Scottish and English crowns. That was that was interesting then. From 1603 until his death in 1625. So the irony, his spouse was actually Anne of Denmark from 1589 to 1619. So when Bantu people became enslaved, King James, as they now understand at the time, and they learned the lineage of him, was a Bantu. So we came, this is how we know the Most High did things a certain way. Our own people brought us, put us into bondage because the person who was in charge of the crown at the time when we went into captivity was a Muntu. King James was black, not white. They changed his image. Okay. So stop and think about that. Our slavery in America started in 1619 under a Muntu king. So you had Mani Congo, you had the kings of Congo, that the clashes and all the stuff that was happening when slavery started then, that kicked us out of, we got kicked out of our land and taken. And then when we came into the new world, or the new colonies, the King of England was a Bantu. It's a trip, isn't it? Because the Bantu people were very, they call it, they mixed this together with the Moors to say that the Moors and us were the same people, but some of us were and some of us weren't, but mostly Islam, which of course we know Moor basically means black, but there were different types of black people. So now, and he says, they shall be my people, and I will be their mfumu or tata. I will give them one heart and one way, that they may fear me forever, for the good of them and their children after them. Now, here's the problem here. Does it look like the Ish people fear him forever with the stuff that they do? No, they're always blessed. They're always doing all kind of stuff that doesn't make sense. When you see how they run the industries, they run all the industries, like the entertainment industry, they run many businesses. The wealthiest people in the world are the Jewish people. Though the people who really control a lot of the governments, you see the Sanhedrins come into the Oval Office with the presidents all the time. Okay, you know, it doesn't take, they have the star of Moloch everywhere, even on the hat of the Pope. It's like, come on. But they call it the star, but in order not so you don't know the difference, oh, they call it the Star of David, when that's not, the Star of David is the star of the Most High, and we know that's the Star of Alba. Okay, so now we see here, I will make an everlasting covenant with them, that I will not turn away from them to do them good, but I will put my fear in their hearts, and they shall not depart from me. So this is how you know this is a futuristic prophecy, because when you look at what's going on with the people who call themselves the people, this does not fit them at all. So he must be talking about a different group of people. They did not do this. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, this is why I did this video. We must definitely get ourselves ready, because the nations have defiled themselves to the point where the Most High is fed up with it. Because the mistakes that people make is that, and let me give you an example that many Christians don't understand. Okay, the very same things that got the Most High's chosen people kicked out of their land in the first place is exactly the same things that are happening in the nations around the world. Even in there's people who call themselves Christian based, and it's like, how in the world do you think that the Creator is now all of a sudden going to be okay, quote unquote, with the things that he was upset with his people about? Oh, but the Christians, oh, okay, you're cool, you can do it. It doesn't work that way. The Most High doesn't change. That's why he said, I shall send thee a strong delusion for them that believe the lie. Okay? If there were many graven images and gods of wood and stone that he didn't want his people to worship and bow down before, why all of a sudden is it okay now for the Christians to do it? Oh, now we have the blood of Jesus. Now we're covered. Kuswa Kongo said he came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. Okay. The Mwandan Semi, the Holy Spirit, as I have said this before, is not going to go against the desires and the wishes of the Most High as to how you conduct yourself in front of his presence. We know the Mwanda is the law of the Most High, because the Mwanda is the law. That's why he says, in order to follow the law in its entirety, you must have the Holy Spirit. because the Holy Spirit will instruct you how to properly follow the law. And see, the problem is many of the people in Christianity, you don't understand. This is how you can tell that something is wrong. Many of you I watched, and I remember I was doing this myself. We're all part of this. We go out and we do things that we think that it's okay and it's normal for us to do because of the things that it's the traditions of America and to do all the things that we do. And you have assumed that these traditions that you follow are okay with the Creator himself because you've been taught these things, but you never bothered to ask him, were these things we were supposed to be doing? And human beings cannot reteach you something and tell you, oh yeah, God's okay with this. And you just assume that the people you grew up with are telling you it right. Okay. Now, of course, you honor your mother and father, which is fine because it created you that you don't know any better. But the problem is that the Most High also said you must become in a relationship with him on your own. And this is how they got you under the deception is you were assuming that there's no way they're misleading me, but for some reason you forgot. Not sure how we forgot that the slave master was the one who used to write the sermon for the preacher, even in the North. Okay, the sermons that were being preached were monitored by those to make sure that you didn't say anything you wouldn't say. This is part of our problem as human beings on this earth. We assume too many things about the Creator. And what this does is it puts him in a box that allows you not to see and experience the true power that he possesses. Because in reality, we already exhibit these things that they could not do, and they made it seem like it was witchcraft because they could not do it, which is the exact same thing that happened to the Messiah himself, a Messiah. Because we're all Messiah-like figures in this world that are doing this work. But he's like, he cast out spirits in the name of someone of Beelzebub. He was called a warlock himself. So if these people were coming around saying, oh, these people doing witchcraft, that means that they were saying the same thing about us who had the spirit that Kuswakongo had taught us. Oh, these guys are like warlocks. Wait a minute. Now I know there's something that Masa brought to my attention about that Tucker family who went back. That when they showed the video, he said himself that they were doing stuff with the sea that you're not supposed to do. So they were actually conducting Kondoki when she went back with the family to Angola. So that tells you that we still are mixing our spirituality. And for him to know that tells you as a Bantu, we knew the difference. We knew the difference between Kondoki and not Kondoki, which is what you call witchcraft. Okay. All right. So I just thought I'd make this video to say, be as a person who is a watchman, is to be ready for anything from here on. Because the things that are happening now do not make any sense at all. But those who don't pay attention are just thinking that this is just things that happen. Because they don't realize what's going on, because they haven't been awakened like many of us. And they will remain asleep because the Most High already said, that he's going to hit people like a thief. Kuswa Kongo said they're going to hit people like a thief. The Most High is coming like a thief. Okay. And if you're not prepared, he's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's over. But you just can't assume that your ticket's already been written. Like we've been conditioned to think, oh yeah, your ticket's already ready to go. And have never even heard the voice of the Messiah himself saying, you're my shepherd. There are those who say, oh yeah, I heard the voice. Did you check? Are you sure? You know, all I'm saying is everybody better get ready, because this what happened today and the other things that are happening now, they making no sense. And you can see that there's a lot of turmoil happening now that's going to escalate further. And I'm still waiting, like so the key said, when they're using this example for what's going to happen with the so-called sun flares. Oh my gosh. This is how they have the excuse for the Most High. They doing something. All right. The Sambololo, Zola Kungi, and the Congo ring. You know, is Tata nZambi and Pungu Tulendo Kutwala a Congo. Right?